I usually never go see horror movies by myself. This one, I couldn't wait for. Welcome back to Midnight Society. It's your boy, the Movie Nerd, here with the movie review for Dr. Sleep. So Dr. Sleep is a sequel to The Shining. If you haven't seen The Shining, you probably shouldn't even watch this review. You should probably go watch The Shining and then come back to this review. You probably shouldn't really watch Dr. Sleep, but it's not going to affect you watching this movie. But before we get into that, let's talk about who's in it. We got Ewan McGregor, Rachel Ferguson, and introducing a new actress, Kyleigh Curran. I don't know if Kyleigh Curran is really new. I didn't really check too much of her background to see if she was in a lot of other shows or in movies, but this was like the real first time I actually seen her in anything. Of course, there were other persons in the cast, but these three were the main characters that led the movie and kept the movie going. Of course, you got Ewan McGregor playing Danny Torrance, Doc, the kid on his tricycle that everybody knows, the famous scene. He plays that character. Rachel Ferguson plays the antagonist in this movie. She's known as Rose the Hat because she wears a hat. It's that simple. I also want to give a shout out to Cliff Curtis because he did a great job as a supporting actor in this movie. Even though when I saw him, all I could keep thinking about was Training Day and the table scene.
Sure. I'm always getting love from the homies.
Yeah, that scene. It took about 5 minutes for me to finally get that out of my head and be like, let's just focus on him in this movie and the character that he's playing in this movie. Not that. If I'm speaking a little fast in this review, it's not because I'm just trying to get it all out and it wasn't that great of a movie. It's because I have a little gremlin on the other side of this door that's sleeping. I don't want to wake her up. And if she does wake up, I'm not going to be able to finish. So I got to get this out quickly. So Dr. Sleep takes place some 20 odd years after The Shining. And you have Danny Torrance. He's older now. His mom's passed away. Obviously, I think she's awake. False alarm. So Dr. Sleep takes place about 20 some odd years after The Shining. You have an older Danny Torrance, or I'm gonna just call him Doc for the rest of the review. So you have an older Doc in this movie who's pretty much an alcoholic. He's on his own, no family in sight, and he's pretty much trying to run away from who he used to be in that past. He doesn't use his abilities because he knows if he shines, there are those otherworldly creatures that can hone in on him and then they'll find him. And that's one of the things I liked about this movie is that it talked about the shining more and what the different abilities that people can shine with, and also about the otherworldly beings and how the shining pertains to them. And also just to add on, if you didn't know, The Shining and the sequel Dr. Sleep are novels both written by Stephen King, and the original Shining was directed by Stanley Kubrick. This one was directed by Mike Flanagan, so he had high expectations and he had a high bar to set the standard for, because most people that are into films or into horror films believe that The Shining is really a cult classic and a strong basis of what a horror film is. Imagine being Mike Flanagan. You're not only directing a movie that's a novel written by Stephen King, you're directing a movie that's a sequel to a Stanley Kubrick film. That's a lot of pressure, and all I gotta say is that he executed perfectly. Obviously, the horror genre is not the same as it was when The Shining originally came out, but this movie has hints of The Shining, and it does it amazingly, where it's kind of like hints in there. There's not the traditional jump scares that are out to get you. It has great story. There's slow parts in this movie, but the slow parts are what actually make this movie what it is. It makes it that much more amazing. Dialogue, dialogue, dialogue. If you can have dialogue in a movie and not bore somebody, make the plot go along and actually make it entertaining, then you've actually hit the mark that you're going for. And I believe that's what Mike Flanagan was going for. I'm not even gonna say I believe it. I'm pretty sure that's what he was going for, and he hit it on the head. I will say that Dr. Sleep, compared to The Shining, had a lot more modern day horror tactics, as it should, because I mean, let's be honest, you're not gonna watch The Shining, or if there was a Shining remake, which there was, and it wasn't that great. But if the original Shining came out today, and say it never came out then, and that movie came out today, better graphics, HD or whatever, and it was indie or theatrical release, I feel like it wouldn't hold today, because people's attentions, their attention spans weren't the same then as they are now. Vice versa. You know what I meant. Like I said, I'm trying to get it out quick. My wife and daughter are grocery shopping, and my other daughter's over there sleeping. I ain't got that much time. But Mike Flanagan did a great job of melding those two type of genres, that slow genre and the modern day genre of horror, and putting them together and making a fantastic movie. Ewan McGregor does a great job of playing the older Doc. from his evolution from the young Danny that you see in The Shining to the one that's running away from his past and to him evolving and helping out the Kyleigh Curran, which is her in the movie. Her name is Abra. It's just an amazing evolution that you see, and he did it flawlessly. Rachel Ferguson, great antagonist. She played a role in this movie well. I think the way they kind of wrote in her character, it kind of made it less shiny. Hold on, wife's calling me.
And have a berry and a mango.
Oh, okay.
And Bella's gonna eat hot dogs. I know that.
Okay. Well, Daddy's recording a video, so I gotta do it before Bella.
Do that.
Yeah, I gotta do it before Bella wakes up. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like her role in this movie made it a little bit more action horror-y. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but the way it played The Shining into this movie, I felt like the Shining moments, they shine, not to make a pun or anything, but the ones where it took it to the more modern side, it worked well, don't get me wrong, like I said, but I can feel the difference in them working with the Shining kind of mood and doing that, and then having Rachel Ferguson play the antagonist, I felt kind of sped it up in areas, which wasn't bad at all, because it had this ride where it was kind of slow, sped up, slow, sped up. But, you know, if you're thinking that this is going to be like The Shining, where you have that kind of like steady pace the entire time, that's not going to be this movie. If you want that full-on Stanley Kubrick feel from The Shining back in the 1980s or whatever, you're going to get some of that here, but you're not going to get all of that. I mean, this is Mike Flanagan, different director, different time. You can't expect it to be like that. But the character that stood out the most in this film, the actress that did the best in this film, hands down, Kyleigh Curran. Like I said, I hadn't really seen her or anything. I don't know if she's anything else, but for this to be my first impression of her, I'm hoping she comes back to another horror genre film, because what she did in this film set the bar for her. It's one of those movies where you have a new actress or an actor or one of the kids and you're like, that person 20 years from now, when I'm not going to tell you, but when I'm older, that person's still going to be relevant and bigger than they are right now. But the way her character is written and the way she portrayed it, this young girl who's strong and knows that these otherworldly beings are coming to her and she's not afraid. She's pretty much pulling Danny in saying, hey, this is what is going to happen. I'm going for him. You can come help me out, or I'm going to do it by myself. And just the overall interaction between the two of them is pretty much all you need in that movie, besides one other thing, the Overlook Hotel. Now, if you're a big fan of The Shining and the original movie, and that's why you're coming to see this, is because you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to see the Overlook Hotel. I saw the trailers. I see the kid on the bike. I see the twins. I see all this, and that's why I'm going to go see it. You're probably going to be let down a little bit, because the Overlook Hotel and those characters are in this movie, but they're not the main part of this movie, and they pretty much don't show up until the last act. So if you're willing to go through great plot, great story, great dialogue, and a great build-up to get to the Overlook Hotel, then you should definitely watch this. But if you're watching it just to get to the Overlook Hotel and you don't care about any of the other stuff, you should probably wait till you have the ability to like fast forward to get there, and then you can watch it. And for my people in the Midnight Society who haven't seen The Shining, I know I had some people who asked me, do I have to see The Shining to watch this movie? Not necessarily. You can definitely watch this movie. It's not going to affect you. You're going to know exactly what's going on. But in the last act, where you have the Overlook Hotel and you have some of those characters that resurface, that come back. And even in the first act, they kind of give you a recap so you're not completely lost about what's going on in the movie. But for the ones that have seen The Shining, when you get to that last act, it's going to mean more to those people than it is for you. So if you're one of those people that likes to be in on the secret, you like to be in on the big, like, oh my gosh, parts of the film, then you should definitely go see The Shining. But if that doesn't mean that much to you, then it's not really that big a deal. Go watch the movie. You're still going to have a good time. And as for my rating for Dr. Sleep, I give it a 4 out of 5, and it's definitely worth watching in theaters. So Dr. Sleep, let me know what you think if you saw it, if you plan on going to see it, or if you don't plan on going to see it. And as always, if you like what you see here, like, comment, and subscribe. Y'all hear that? You hear that? She's awake. And as always, this is submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society.